Panthers returned home on Saturday afternoon, but they couldn't take advantage of a Hagel-less Tampa Bay Lightning team, and now every game has been won by the road team.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Saturday, April 26th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You follow me on X and Blue Sky at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. If you're on the YouTube, subscribe and press that like button down below. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So the Florida Panthers lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 5-1 in Sunrise in Game 3, an afternoon game for the Panthers and the Lightning here. And Alexander Barkov was in the lineup after taking that hit from Brandon Hagel. Aaron Ekblad did make his return to the lineup, but after 3 third-period goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they broke the game open, and the Panthers, they find themselves on the losing end, but they still do lead the series 2-1 after 3 games. And now the road team has won every single game in this series. And here to break down more of this 5-1 loss for the Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning from Amerant Bank Arena, he is South Florida native and part of the Locked On family, the host of Locked On Syracuse, Jackson Holzer. Jackson, welcome to the show. And a bit of a downer today, but I'm not too down when it comes to the fact that the Panthers still got some road wins in this series. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you, Armando. There's the optimistic way of looking at it, which is the Panthers are still up 2-1, which is a good thing. But then there's the whole kind of let Tampa right back into the series. And it would be really nice if they were up 3-0 right now. So we got tons to talk about here.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny because you think about for the Panthers, I mean, just how well they were able to just clog up the passes whenever the Tampa Bay Lightning were trying to break out. I mean, even before their first goal, just 2:43 in, I mean, it was 3 passes intercepted in the first 3 minutes, and then it resulted in Matthew Tkachuk scoring the goal, which Evan Rodriguez was able to separate the puck. Bennett drove to the lane, and then Matthew Tkachuk on the rebound there, his third goal of the series for the Panthers here. But I mean, you think about how the Panthers and just the inability to keep that foot on the gas for them, and then you think about for the Tampa Bay Lightning, the fact that they were able to get it 1-1, and then from there, I mean, the physicality picked up before the Tampa Bay Lightning scored 13 minutes in. There was like a good 5-minute period where the Tampa Bay Lightning got 3 shots on net in the first minute, and then there was literally no space out there. And then you saw really in that second period the physicality really start to ramp up. There's guys getting cross-checked into the crease. Victor Hedman was one of them for the Tampa Bay Lightning side of things. And man, the bad blood just went up another notch when it came to the temperature of it. And Vasilevsky, you got to give credit to him. He was just on point with his game. The Tampa Bay Lightning were forcing the Panthers to the outside, kind of how Florida was in the first 2 games. And it wasn't really the Panthers denying them zone entries like they were in the first 2.
I think Vazzy is the main reason why Tampa won this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that the Panthers should look at and be like, oh, well, we played an amazing game. We got goalie. Mm-hmm. It's more the fact that the Panthers controlled the first 15 minutes of this game. They had this. They were up 1-0. They're controlling the pace of play. They're causing turnovers. Tampa's generating no chances. They had a power play in the first period that did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Tampa. They didn't generate their first shot on goal until about 7 minutes into the game. They didn't even have any real scoring chances. And the Panthers, it's not that they let up. They kept coming. They were pushing. They were trying to get that second goal. And you just felt that if the Panthers get that second goal and they go up 2-0 in the first period, the game is over and the series is over. There was no going back for Tampa Bay, but Vazzy stood tall, made a couple big saves on Barkov. He robbed Marchand in the slot, and it bought Tampa time to get back into the game. And all they needed was just a break. They needed a bounce. They needed something to go their way. And that's what happened. Nikita Kucherov does what Nikita Kucherov does. He finally gets himself free, and then there's Guentzel in the slot. He takes a shot. It ends up getting credited to Brayden Point, but he's wide open in front of the net to flex off him. And there you go. It's 1-1. And I felt really bad after it was 1-1 in the first period, because when you control the game and it's tied or you're losing, you know the other team's going to pick it up a little bit. And you could just sense that Tampa felt more confident after tying the game at 1. And then from then on, it was just mental mistake after mental mistake and puck watching. I mean, the second goal for Tampa is caused because of a power play that happened earlier from Tampa where Nico Mikkola and Seth Jones just misplay the puck behind the net. They can't clear the puck. It ends up getting knocked down by Nikita Kucherov. As a result, Mackey takes a penalty right then and there. And what I always tell people, if you're new to hockey, is this. A power play does not end until you get that clear, you get that whistle, and you get that change. Because even when you kill the 2 minutes, you're still discombobulated. You're still getting someone out of the box. The lines are all messed up a little bit. You want to try to get to this sense of normalcy, but you're not quite there yet. You need that whistle. You need that clear. Panthers couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden, Anton Lundell just decides to public state for a little. He loses Nick Paul in the neutral zone, and 2-on-1. Bad bounce, goal. Right then and there, you're down 2-1. Even though it's not that big of a deal, it was a big deal. I can just sense it.
Yeah, and even during that power play, I mean, when the Panthers didn't even get it all the way deep while trying to make a change, and they couldn't even get Barkov on the ice. Well, they couldn't get Reinhart off the ice, excuse me. And so that was the thing, that he was just stranded out there for a good bit. And even though they had the change, that Mackey comes back, that was the penalty that Mackey took for that trip. And then it's like you're still not getting the sticks in the lanes and all the way out, and then that results in that and the goal by Nick Paul that goes off the leg of Aaron Ekblad and then under the left of Sergei Bobrovsky. But there was a big save by that Vasilevsky made, like you mentioned, Brad Marchand getting stopped, where, I mean, and I thought in Aaron Ekblad's first game, I thought he was getting set up quite well, working the low to high plays. Eventually he got on power play 2 right before the Panthers did in fact take a penalty, which I will mention more in the second segment. So there was a lot of shuffling going on for the Panthers. They mixed up the top line. They put the rat line together. They put Verhaeghe back on the top power play unit for them. But really, Eetu Luostarinen really spoke about it in the post game, where it was just a big mess in the neutral zone on just how they were unable to take care of the puck, and also with reading plays. I mean, that setup from Kucherov to Guentzel for the third goal reminded me so much of Game 2 in 2022. When
I don't want to talk about it. No.
I know.
Don't.
I know. But
you're right.
It gave me flashbacks, unfortunately, to that moment. Unfortunately, from just 3 years ago. Then that the pinch on the 2-on-1 that ended up with the Tampa Bay fourth line scoring. So that was just another thing where it was just a lack of attention for the neutral zone.
That third goal, it's so funny because I want to say this was the penalty that Matthew Tkachuk took that gave Tampa a power play at the end of the second period, where he, I guess, hits Victor Hedman into the goalie, and the refs have made it very clear that if you are the aggressor and you are the one that causes a big scrum, then you are going to get an extra penalty, which, as long as they're consistent with, I'm fine with them calling it that way. I'm not going to try to blame the refs here, but they call a penalty on Tkachuk, 5-on-4, and Tampa ends up taking a really stupid penalty at the end of the second period. Anthony Cirelli, I don't know what he's thinking. You're up 2-1. The period is over. You're still on a power play. Hey, like,
And he throws Reinhardt's helmet
what are you
across
doing,
the
Anthony?
ice.
That was a stupid penalty. I'm texting my friend who's a Lightning fan, and I'm like, hey, that was a really dumb penalty. Like, thank you. I mean, like, that's a chance for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still 30 seconds of 4-on-4, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had this feeling. I was like, you know what? Tampa's going to try to score here. You got to try to score, because if you don't, well, then you're going to go on the PK and it's 2-1. You might as well try to go for it for 30 seconds. So John Cooper decides, I'm putting out Nikita Kucherov. He's going to risk it, because if you get Kucherov caught out there on the penalty kill, you're in rough shape.
Not the best foot speed.
But he's going for it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Carbon copy of game 2. Everyone's puck watching again. There's 3 guys who are watching the puck with a player behind the net. Newsflash, you're not scoring from behind the net.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look in front, and it's just like head on a swivel. It's basic fundamentals, 101 right here. And as soon as the first goal felt bad, the second goal felt worse, and the third goal felt game over. There was no coming back after the third. I didn't need to take notes after the third goal, because I was like, they're not coming back. Vazzy's playing too well. They're not scoring 2 goals and forcing overtime.
Yeah, and then taking advantage of Bob losing the stick on that goal as well. So that's another thing. So maybe we know what your moment of when the game was lost for this one is, but we won't tease it too much. We'll actually go for a discussion there in segment number 2, which we will transition to now. So we'll be back as we will discuss this next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and the NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your $5 bet, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers, steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same game parlay with a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Once again, you can do that all on FanDuel.com. Segment 2 here on this Saturday, April 26th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Here with Jackson Holzer, host of Locked On Syracuse and South Florida native here on the show. And just a PSA for you guys, we will be doing weekend shows all throughout the playoffs until the Florida Panthers' season is over. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in to the show. So, 3 duds of the game for this one for the Panthers here, as they lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 5-1 at home. Number 3 dud for me, Anton Lundell. I didn't see much of a driving of play as much as he did in the first few. 18% on draws for him, not the best numbers for him. And then, like you mentioned earlier, loses Nick Paul off that give and go for him, and not as much back pressure as there was in the first 2 games. So Anton Lundell, 3rd dud of the game for me. Number 2, although it's his first game back from the suspension, Aaron Ekblad. I don't know if you saw hockey stat cards, Jackson, but
I did.
Yeah, not the best for him. The errant pass on the second goal, like I mentioned, couldn't get a full line change on the PK, and just a tough break for the Panthers there. And then number 1 dud. This is a rare one for me. I usually never put this guy on usually for the duds. Gustav Forsling, stripped by Nikita Kucherov on the first goal, a bad pinch that led to the goal by the 4th line, and then also the pinch on Gonzalez after Aaron Ekblad's errant pass. So it was a lot of missed time calculations when it came to even when the Lightning were coming with speed in the neutral zone there. So a rare dud for Gustav Forsling in game 3 of the first round. How about yours?
I think we have the same 3 duds.
Oh man,
I think we do. I mean, Anton Lundell on that second goal, I don't even want, like, I've seen the replay of it. It's just one of those, you just shake your head and you're just like, I don't get it. Your responsibility there is Nick Paul. It's down the middle of the ice. You filter through the middle of the ice, and he's going for a public skate. He just loses sight of him. Puck watching. It's unacceptable. Game could be completely different right there. And I can't even blame Bobrovsky because, well, one of the other duds of the game, Aaron Ekblad, well, it deflected off him and went in the net.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his fault. And Gustav Forsling, again, he's one of the culprits of the puck watching. That third goal just... It's funny because I play defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that position. You got to have your head on a swivel. You got it. And number one priority is protect the house when you are in the defensive zone. And they didn't do that. Also, shout out to Sam Reinhart for getting absolutely dog walked by Nikita Kucherov on that first goal, by the way. Shout out to him as well. So we can keep going all day with the duds here.
Yeah. But only 3 on one of them. But yeah, that was a great move by Nikita Kucherov right before he got it. It's funny because the goal was originally credited to Jake Guentzel, but then they changed it to Braden Point off a redirection. So not a lot that Sergei Bobrovsky could do when the net front parked at the net front, and you can't, your eyes aren't able to see the pucks, which they did such a great job in the first 2 games of just clear lanes and just him making saves over and over again, which the structure was not up to par in this one for the Florida Panthers. Moment where I knew the game was lost for me, although the Lightning scored with 3 seconds left on that 4-on-4 right before the Panthers were to get a power play, which was such a downer. I did not think that part was actually where the game was lost. I still thought that there's plenty of time, but then the Panthers took a penalty shortly after. Eetu Luostarinen trips Erik Chernak, which I thought was a little soft. That one, I was not a fan of that one, that penalty. But for the Panthers, the fact that they were going to the box, you were already down 2, and I'm just thinking, I was just putting my arms up, not literally, but emotionally, thinking, man, you're gonna be on your end of the ice more for a longer period of time when you already had to play a little bit of catch up here. So when Eetu took that penalty, for me, that was the moment where I knew the game was lost. How about you?
I had a feeling that after the first period, with how well the Panthers played and with Tampa somehow managing to escape 1-1, that the third goal was going to decide the game. Mm-hmm. If the Panthers respond and they get that third goal and they take a 2-1 lead, I was going to sit here and come on and say, that's where I knew the game was won, because they responded, they took a punch, and they said, you know what, screw it, we're going to maintain our game and we're going to win this one. But when Tampa got that third goal, mm-hmm. even though there's plenty of time, I had no faith that we were coming back. Mm-hmm. With the way Vazzy was playing, I didn't see it. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it is, you're not down 1. You really got to score 2 more goals, because you got to score to tie it, and then you got to score to take the lead.
Yeah.
And the way I looked at it is, I don't think the Panthers are scoring 2 more goals in this game. I don't think they have it. So, yeah, they might tie it. But then if it goes to overtime, I don't think they're going to win it in overtime. Vazzy was playing too well at that point for me to think, we're down 2-1. It's all good. We're going to be fine. And you really think about it, ever since game 1, Vazzy has responded.
Yeah.
He has allowed 2 goals in the last 2 games. He's keeping Tampa in the game. And the thing is, he's keeping Tampa really in the series.
Yeah.
The way Tampa wins this series is special teams and goaltending. That's how they win it. Now, right now, the special teams have not really been going in favor of Tampa, particularly in game 1. And then you look at games 2 and 3, and it's kind of a wash with the special teams. They were both pretty bad with power plays. Penalty kills really good on both sides. If Tampa gets the power play going, particularly in game 4, that's really where we might see the series turn. Because I look at these 2 teams 5-on-5, and while it's closer than a year ago, I still think Florida has a slight edge 5-on-5, even when both are at their best. And today, clearly the Panthers were not at their best. After the first 15 minutes, they looked awful, even 5-on-5. That's probably going to correct itself. But if Tampa in game 4 says, or has one of those games where they go 3 for 5 on a power play, that's the way they're going to win game 4 and ultimately can turn the tide of the series.
Yeah. After 5-on-5, the shot differential for the Panthers was +7, then +5. But you can't really put too much stock at 5-on-5 in the third period because there wasn't a lot of 5-on-5 time due to the 5-minute major on Matthew Tkachuk for that hit on Guentzel in the neutral zone on the empty net goal. And also for the Panthers, you mentioned that they weren't going to win it because in the regular season, even when they were 6-on-5, they weren't tying the game. They only did it once all year. So it wasn't something that it's not something that we've seen them when it comes to falling behind and coming back. So that's another thing. So it's like, okay, it's a little bit of a respond, regroup, and you have 2 days to think about things a little bit here. But we're going to actually transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to just give our thoughts on just the line shuffles, because the top 9 was shuffled quite a bit here, and also including but also the power play was shifted a bit for the Panthers. And also we are going to give our thoughts on the hit from Matthew Tkachuk in the neutral zone. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check in on finance, track spending, and even long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Third and final segment here on this Saturday, April 26th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Here with Jackson Holzer, South Florida native, and the host of Locked On Syracuse, here on the show to break down this 5-1 loss for the Florida Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning from Amerant Bank Arena. So we saw a little bit of a shuffle for the Panthers here, around 10 minutes left in the third period. I was just noticing that Mackey wasn't even taking the spot on the second line. We saw the rat line officially assemble for the Panthers here, and for the Panthers here. What'd you think about? Do you think Paul Maurice pulled the trigger a little too early on when it came to the power play and the lines when it came to that? Because I think he did. I know it's still a 2-1 series lead, but I just think whenever something went so well and you're pulling the plug, I don't know. I just had a little bit of a bad feeling when I noticed it on the ice.
I don't mind it because the power play hasn't done anything since game 1.
Okay.
Power play was great in game 1. Game 2, it kind of gets swept under the rug because Tampa was even worse on the power play. But Florida didn't exactly look good on the power play either. They had a 5-minute major in the third period, and I understand that they didn't have Barkov for that 5-minute major, but they couldn't even get set up in the offensive zone. They didn't generate anything with a 5-minute major. So I understand making some changes. I don't know if Verhaeghe is the guy, though, that should be taking Samo's spot. I think it might be Brad Marchand. I think I would rather have him out there. I think that would maybe make it a little bit better, give Florida a little different look there on the power play. As far as lines 5-on-5, I liked line 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, aside from a mistake here or there, I still think they play quite well together. Lundell, Luostarinen, and Marchand together. But I'm not going to sit here and complain with with putting Brad Marchand with Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, especially in the third period when you need some sort of spark. It's very often that coaches will sometimes shuffle up the lines to give a new look, to try to inject some energy. At that point, you're not pulling Bobrovsky. And what I mean is you're not swapping the goaltender. That's another tactic that coaches will use to try to motivate a team to play better. So in that scenario, the only thing you really do is try to shuffle the lines, because I know I didn't think they were coming back. I know you probably didn't think they were coming back. But at that point, the Panthers can't have the mindset of we're not coming back. You got to try something to try to get back into the game. So I don't mind the line changes. And I have no idea what to expect for game 4. And that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know and you don't know, and well, hopefully John Cooper doesn't know.
Yeah, that's the main one.
Yeah, like hopefully John Cooper doesn't know, because if we're confused, like, are they going to assemble the rat line all together, or are they going to keep line 3 together? Or where's Sam Stevich going to play? Is he going to stay on line 4, or is he going to go back to line 2 where he was at the beginning of the series? Where's Evan Rodriguez going to play? Is Carter Verhaeghe going to stay on line 1? So you're creating confusion.
Yeah,
that's what you want to do with the other coach. You want to create some confusion so you can get the best matchups possible on the ice for the next game.
And thankfully for the Panthers, they've been able to just do so many different combinations throughout the year. Even if Evan Rodriguez isn't necessarily playing on the top line right now, you could plug that in whenever. Verhaeghe's had a little bit of that time with Bennett and Tkachuk as well. I do think part of me does believe that they won't go back immediately to that rat line, and I do think it's going to be back to a break glass in case of emergency. But they weren't able to even skate during the regular season due to Tkachuk's injury. So when you're down already, I guess give it a try to see if you can see if things can get generated. So maybe that's the positive when it comes to that. Just see what you got when it comes to that. So the Panthers haven't announced whether they were going to do an official practice or media availabilities yet. So we're still waiting on word there for the Panthers here. So we will see, and we will and I will be sure, if you guys follow me on X, Blue Sky, and even Instagram on the FLA Panthers page, we will post all of that just to give an update there. But I do want to ask you. Yeah, I had my takes on the Brandon Hagel hit on Barkov, and yeah, he ended up being suspended. Unfortunately, the Panthers couldn't take advantage of Hagel-less Tampa Bay Lightning team, but there was another 5-minute major for this series, and it was Matthew Tkachuk laying an interference call on Jake Guentzel on the empty net goal, which Paul Maurice pulled the goaltender with 5:34 left, and there was that empty net goal by Anthony Cirelli, and just a frustration hit by Matthew Tkachuk. I personally don't like it. I get when the game is basically over, you need to show in a way that you're not going to back down from the opposition, but a little bit of a lack of composure. But this isn't the first time we've seen Tkachuk do something like this. I mean, we've even seen him try to poke a stick into the eye of Jonathan Quick in his first season with the Panthers not too long ago. So what was your take on that interference call by Tkachuk?
It was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a time and place to send a message, but committing penalties that are worth 5-minute majors is not the recipe to do it. That's not sending a message.
Yeah.
That's just idiocy. See, I was going to come on here and talk about the positive with Matthew Tkachuk. The positive is he played over 16 minutes tonight.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, because the first game he plays less than 12 minutes. The second game he plays about 13 and a half minutes. And I was wondering, are they doing this because they're managing an injury and this is what it's going to be like throughout the whole playoffs? Or are they just easing him back in with conditioning? Well, it's as the ice time keeps going up, that's a really good thing. It goes to show you that they're just easing him back in, and maybe he's a little bit more healthy than what we might think. He's closer to 100%, which is good. But then he does that. What is he thinking? It's not as bad as the Hagel hit. I want to make that clear.
No
it's
question.
not as bad as the Hagel hit, but now you're putting that doubt into the National Hockey League, and you're leaving it in the faith of you're leaving your fate in the hands of the NHL, whether you're going to play in Game 4 or not. I would not be surprised if he's suspended. Because even though the hit is not as bad as Brandon Hagel, and it's not, if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan who stumbled upon this podcast, do not even try to compare the two. They are not the same. And the fact that Hagel wasn't even ejected in game 2 after the hit is stupid. I mean, did the officials forget the rules or something in game 2? Like, I thought when you get a 5-minute major, you also get ejected, but that's neither here nor there. Now that the league has already suspended Hagel for 1 game for an interference penalty, which is the only thing the two share in common, the league might say, you know what? Matthew Tkachuk, we're going to make another example here. Enough with the antics. We're giving you a game. And Matthew Tkachuk has a history, so I wouldn't be surprised, Armando, and it's a shame because it seemed like he might heat up, and he's going to play a little bit more in this series and going to get even better. I hope he plays game 4. I'm a Florida Panthers fan. I don't necessarily think the hit is suspension worthy, but I'm just simply pointing out that
you're taking that risk.
You're taking a risk. And why are you taking a risk? If you want to shove a guy after the whistle, just shove a guy after a whistle. Who cares? If you want to punch a guy in the face after the whistle, do that at that point. And yes, I'm advocating for violence there, but that's not going to get you suspended. I have watched hockey long enough. You're not getting suspended in front of the net by punching a guy in the face. You will get suspended if you interfere with a guy in the neutral zone. It's just dumb.
Yeah, where Guentzel couldn't even brace himself. So that's the thing. So we are going to have to wait and see when it comes to Tkachuk there. But I'm in agreement with you. I don't think it's suspendable, but you just never know what the Department of Player Safety is going to come out and do when it comes to they did it on one side. They could do it on the other when it comes to that. So now it's a waiting game, at least for that. And hey, now it's a 2-1 series lead still, and we have a battle. That's the from an entertainment standpoint, I love it. From being unable to take a 3-0 series lead and put even more doubt, that I don't love. So that's the unfortunate thing about it.
Armando, I think we all knew we were not going 16-0 in this playoff run, which would have been really nice, but we knew it was not going to happen. That being said, I think game 4 is going to decide the series.
Yeah.
If Florida wins game 4 and they bounce back and they win, I don't care how they win. I don't think they're going to blow a 3-1 lead. I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but I don't think they will.
Yeah.
If Tampa ties it up with game 5 and game 7 on their home ice potentially, after losing the first 2 games, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that the Florida Panthers are not just the 2024 Golden Knights all over again.
Yeah.
So win game 4, please. Yep.
Thankfully, they're 8 of 9 on the penalty kill, and hopefully that continues to be the strong part of the game, as that has been it was the opposite of what the Lightning power play was last year. So at least they got that part going for them. But Jackson, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Unfortunately, the Panthers lose 5-1, but a chance to bounce back on Monday night from Amerant Bank Arena, 7 p.m. on ESPN and on Script Sports. Let everybody know where they can follow you online, my friend.
Sure. My personal Twitter account is @JacksonH_52, and I am also the host of Locked On Syracuse here. So if you are a Syracuse fan by chance, @LO_Syracuse is where you can find me on social media there, and also on YouTube, Locked On Syracuse, and wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Locked On Syracuse.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, and we'll have you back on again pretty soon, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, Locked On NHL Prospects, and Locked On NHL Game Night. So thank you, as always, for joining. So I'm Armando Velez with Jackson Holzer. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.